How does a young girl born in poverty in Jamaica becomes the richest Jamaican woman ever to set foot on the beautiful shore of this tiny island called Jamaica? Trisha Bailey is the embodiment of the dream of almost every woman in Jamaica and across the entire globe. Her accomplishments show an extraordinary rise from the absolute bottom to the absolute top, a world where only the elites have been able to experience. While many now see and recognize her as a real Jamaican magnate, her journey was a serious mix of joy and sadness that involved incidents that could have totally destroyed her life for good. A life that involved abuse and racism and even jail time, but she overcame. This is the story of Trisha Bailey, Jamaica's richest woman. Born in the quiet parish of St. Elizabeth, Jamaica, Bailey was soon separated from her mother who left to experience life in the United States. In the absence of her mother, she was left to be taken care of by her grandmother and aunt. And even though she lived in what she called a tiny hut and was sometimes barefooted, these were some of her most enjoyable and fondest moments as a child. She relished the quietness and would oftentimes spend time on her uncle's farm taking care of various farm produce, but this joy was short-lived. At the age of 13, Trisha Bailey migrated to the United States to be reunited with her biological mother and stepfather. She always thought of the United States as a utopia with streets paved with gold, but her childhood fantasy soon turned into deep grief as she was about to experience what no 13-year-old was ever supposed to endure. To make things worse, all of this was going to take place in the very place that she was about to call home. Starting life in the United States for her was like writing on a brand new page. The culture was very different from what she knew all her life, and there was absolutely zero friends to help her make the transition. Shortly after moving in with her mother and stepfather, something horrible happened. Her stepfather saw her as the perfect target to take advantage of, and that he did. Since her mother refused to believe her about the abuse from her husband and he didn't plan on stopping, she had to find an escape route. Track and field it was. She literally had to run for her life and sanity. As a means of escaping her perverted stepfather, she joined her high school track and field program, and as was expected of a Jamaican athlete, she did well, landing her full scholarship to attend the University of Connecticut. On her way into college, she barely made it because she performed quite badly at the entrance examination, but she got in and started a life of her own. One would think that her life was finally moving into the right direction. In some ways it was, but on the other hand, she was forming some bad relationships that were going to further mess things up for her. One of these relationships even got her arrested after one of these men that she cared about lied to the police about some issues that concerned them. Now, in spite of all this mess, she finished university and soon made history in the financial world. At just the age of 22, Trisha Bailey started wetting her feet in financing and made history as one of the youngest stockbrokers at Morgan Stanley, previously known as Solomon Smith Barley. Morgan Stanley is an American multinational investment bank and financial services company headquartered at 1585 Broadway in Midtown Manhattan, New York City, with offices located in 41 countries with more than 75,000 employees. While that achievement was great and she was building herself financially during this time, she was facing serious abuse from her lover, and each time she moved on to someone else, it was more of the same, which eventually led to her attempting suicide in 2008, and she ended up in a coma for 8 days. Her moment of change finally came while she was at the airport waiting on her connected flight to Florida alone. She was restricted to a wheelchair and sat crying after trying to get help from passers-by, but was ignored for a while. Eventually, a young lady came to her assistance, but as bad as that situation was, it was what turned her into a billionaire. As she sat in the wheelchair, ignored and helpless, she realized that the disabled were invisible to most of the world, and right there and then, she spotted a market that was underserved and an opportunity to embark on something life-changing in every sense of the word. And that gave birth to her company, Bailey's Medical Equipment and Supplies, in 2011. She started her company with just a single employee, but today, more than a decade later, she is the CEO of 16 different companies, including Bailey's Pharmacy, a chain of pharmacy across the United States. She also runs a scrub company, Bailey's Scrubs, and is worth more than $1 billion today. Across the United States and Jamaica, she now owns over 50 commercial and residential properties in real estate. She has also invested in sports, where she currently has stakes in the Phoenix Suns, the Atlanta Hawks, and Charlotte Hornets. Also, as a philanthropist, she has sponsored the tuition of more than 270 Caribbean students attending college and university in different parts of the world. Trisha Bailey's wealth and riches go far beyond owning billions of dollars, but it captures a story of perseverance through immense hardship, a story of a woman who refused to allow her life to be shaped by the curved ball that a tough life threw at her.